Hello and welcome to Canada Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes. Last time I checked, hope everyone's feeling okay today. We've got Sarah Davis in the chat, we've got Diz, we've got SG, we've got Graham Haller, we've got L Chaos, we've got Liam Fairhurst, and we've got Person Impersonator and others. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is go to the sexy subscribe button and be a sexy subscriber and wait for 1 minute and then you'll be able to join the chat. But please don't be a troll, and in light of recent events, don't write anything that could get you into trouble with the law, okay? Anyway, howdy Graham, says C Dizzy Dizzle. Howdy C Dizzy Dizzle, nice to see you there. Alistair is also in the chat as well. So today we're going to be talking about Peter Mandelson. Well, more to do with Starmer's judgment. Keir Starmer, judgment. He's had to sack 2 of his top people in the last week, which is pretty grim. It's only September the 11th. I mean, Jesus. So yeah, it's wow. This is pretty grim. I mean, people have known that Peter Mandelson was a wrong-un for a very, very long time. And yeah, after over 100 private emails have been revealed, which have been released, which reveal close ties, very, very close ties between the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein and the British ambassador to America, Peter Mandelson. Mandelson called Epstein his best pal, discussed helping his legal defense when he was, getting done for rape. And he suggested that Epstein's first conviction was wrongful. And this comes less than 24 hours after something I mentioned yesterday on the show. During Prime Minister's questions, Keir Starmer was like, yeah, I have confidence in him. He didn't say full confidence, but he said he had confidence in him. That's not cool, is it? And even before Prime Minister questions, Mandelson said, oh, these emails are going to come out and it's going to be worse. So you gotta think, like, why didn't they do something about this? Well, why didn't they just not have Mandelson be the ambassador to start with? But then when all the Epstein stuff was coming out and it was obvious the way that things were heading, and it was obvious that Mandelson and Epstein were good buddies, maybe that's the time that they should have pushed him, rather than after Kemi Badenoch spent 6 of her 6 questions asking why is the British ambassador to America busy mates with a paedophile. Dead paedophile, but a paedophile nonetheless. Fat Panda says, oh Mandy, you came and gave Jeff a handy. Wrote Jeff a note on his birthday. Oh, Mandy. Manilo's next hit. That's kind of crazy. This is the 3rd time Mandelson has been sacked for being involved in a scandal. What do people see in him? I don't know. He's just a rich, sleazy motherfucker on, a 6-figure salary. I don't get it. I honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I just do not get it. And this is a colossal vetting failure, because it's not like this came out the blue, guys. Labour. It's not like, it's like they invited Emperor Palpatine to be our ambassador for America, and he kept on, zapping people with Force Lightning, and you're like, oh, I didn't expect him to do that. And it's like, no, that's what he does. He zaps people with his little finger sparkles. And then, the fact that Mandelson was Starmer's personal pick for arguably the most important diplomatic post that Britain has. And this wasn't some backbench MP or peer in the House of Lords or party donor. This was the UK's face to the US at a time of quite acute geopolitical tension and chaos. Not necessarily our fault, well, a bit our fault, but mostly to do with Trump. being in charge in the States. Trump publicly defended him in Prime Minister's questions yesterday and then booted him this morning, which makes him look weak. It makes him look like someone with zero foresight, someone who can't visualize. And I feel bad about bringing this up, but it's really blown me away. I didn't know that there were people who couldn't visualize things in their head, right? The way my brain works, it is incredibly visual. If I'm writing a story or writing a script or synopsis even, I can see the images in my head as clear as day, as clear as I'm looking at this laptop now. And you know what? Okay, it's not his fault that he can't visualize things. But if that's the case, and I'm not saying that should disqualify him from being a member of parliament or even the prime minister, but he needs to surround himself with people who can visualize, who can see the future. And it's not about gazing into a pair of pristine crystal balls. It's about just looking at the evidence laid out before you. Trump's a wrong un, Mandelson's a wrong un, Putin's a wrong un. We know. We've seen their performance in the past, and that informs what they'll do in the future. They won't change. People won't change. It's the lie that Hollywood... I'm here at the Toronto International Film Festival in Toronto, even, in Canada. And the big lie that Hollywood has sold for generations, and stories have told, it's not just Hollywood's fault. This goes back to the very first stories, songs, ballads that were ever composed. It's always about the capacity for change. Like, people could change. People could become better people or worse people. Whereas in reality, people don't really change that much. People can try and be better, and that's great, and we all should strive to improve, but you can't just go down the personality shop and just get a new personality. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, I want Starmer to surround himself with people with vision, people who can see the lay of the land, people who understand almost instinctively the right political decisions to take. And he's clearly not. He's clearly surrounded by people who consistently choose the wrong thing to do every time. It's like, oh yeah, I got the wrong thing. What's the wrong thing to do today, Kia? Oh, well, we'll do this. Oh, that's probably the wrong thing to do, isn't it? We'll go after trans kids. Okay. We'll go after vulnerable pensioners. That seems like a bad idea. Oh no, we went after the vulnerable pensioners, and now there's been a big backlash against us. What should we do? Well, maybe we could raise the threshold for the winter fuel allowance to maybe, I don't know, £17,000 or something. 35. Yeah, but £35,000 is more than people get for actually working. And these people who are on like a hefty pension, they're literally not working. They're literally sitting around the house all day, maybe doing some gardening or watching Homes Under the Hammer. They're not actually labouring, So why should they get this money, and yet a family of four who are trying to survive off an income of £34,000 a year, they don't get the winter fuel allowance? Make it make sense. Another terrible decision. Oh, we need £5 billion more for the Treasury. Should we tax the billionaires? Should we have a windfall tax for these oil companies and gas companies? Should we, I don't know, should we tax gambling properly? Yeah, there's a lot of things they could do. They could do things. And every time they had a decision to make, they seem to make the wrong decision. And like I say, it's not Keir Starmer's fault that he can't visualise stuff, but he should surround himself with people who can, successfully, with a track record of successfully making the correct call in these circumstances. But who's his chief of staff? Morgan McSweeney. Fucking idiot. I'm sorry. The guy may say that he got Starmer elected, but it's bollocks, right? First of all, he didn't get Starmer elected. The fact that we didn't want another person in the previous leader's cult to be the leader of Labour is why Starmer got elected. He was in the right place at the right time. That's it. It wasn't a win so much as a loss for the other side, because people saw that with the previous leader's lot in charge, Labour don't stand a chance of winning an election. They couldn't win one against not just Boris Johnson, but also Theresa May, who fought the worst political campaign in history and lost seats as a result of a snap election that did not need to be called. But the Tories still won. They teamed up with the DUP, but they still won. They still got a lot more seats than Labour did. And then winning the last election last year, come on. Are you going to tell me that was Labour? It wasn't. It was the Tories were shit. It was a vote against the Tories. Just as when the Labour get kicked out in the next election, which is looking increasingly likely by the day, by the hour, by the minute, by the second. It'll be down to them being crap. It won't be down to Farage having the right idea or being able to... It'll just be down to them being crap. Paula Thomas, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. That is very kind of you. I think this was exactly why Starmer picked Mandelson. Mandelson is in Trump's orbit via Epstein. A lawyer who can't visualise is a bad lawyer. Yeah, so thanks very much for that, Paula. And I think you're right. I think you're right about he picked Mandelson on purpose because he knew he was in Trump's orbit. But the problem is, anyone in the orbit of someone as evil as Trump is going to have problems themselves. You know, they're not exactly going to be beyond reproach. He doesn't really hang out with David Attenborough that much, you know. Yeah, one of your papers says, I'm still not convinced of a refuck win yet. I'm not saying it's convincing. I'm saying it's getting increasingly likely as time goes on, because Labour keep scoring these own fucking goals, and it's driving me up the fucking wall. Just simple as that. I'm sure a lot of you watching this can sympathise with this position, because it must be driving you up the wall as well. Like, you were supposed to defeat the stiff, not join them. Anyway, so yeah, we all saw this coming, you know. Mandelson's links to Epstein have been publicly known for years. The meetings, the friendships, the secret dinners, the photos. This wasn't obscure. It's been tabloid fodder since the 2000s. Mandelson himself admitted to feeling tremendous regret, that's what he said, about meeting him. I mean, about meeting him, it's not like he was at a premiere and then, like, he said, oh, could I shake your hand? And he shook his hand, and then they went their separate ways. These were friends. These were very close friends. You don't hang around in someone else's house wearing a fucking dressing gown, bath towel thing, bath gown. That's not the right word, is it? Bathrobe. You don't sit around someone else's house wearing a fucking bathrobe unless you're very good friends with them. Unless you're a weirdo, I don't know. Maybe some people who are weird just turn up at strangers' houses wearing a bathrobe, but I would think that would be a bit of an odd thing to do. And yet, knowing all this, Starmer installed him as an ambassador anyway, despite the risk of damaging compromise. You know, think about the stuff that the Russians could have on him. They got this stuff on Trump, which people say they have. Personally, I don't believe that Russia has compromise on Trump. I don't think they need it. I think they know he's a silly, stupid, ignorant pig of a man, and all they have to do is appeal to his ego, and he'll do exactly what they want, because he's weak. He's a weak person who can't survive unless he's being told by everyone around him how great he is. And like I said, this was utterly predictable. Like, of course there was going to be emails. Of course they would eventually leak. And what it shows with Starmer in particular is that he has next to zero political instinct. He's supposed to be this cautious lawyer, but it's like playing a game of Russian roulette, politics style. And this isn't even the first Mandelson scandal. He's resigned from the government twice before over sleaze, over financial and lobbying sleaze. Like, this guy, he has a track record. What did he think? Third time's the charm. Why gamble on him again? Well, because Morgan McSweeney and a lot of people in Labour's inner circle, by the looks of things, are trapped in nostalgia for the Blair era, and are too stupid, arrogant, you might say, to see the future. They're obsessed with the past. They're just as bad. I mean, I don't think Labour as a party is just as bad as the Tories, but the people who are in the inner circle, the people who are advising Starmer right now, if someone says to me, they are just as bad as the Tories, I'll be like, well, yeah, in their inability to see the future. Like, they just can't visualise what's going to happen next. And they seem to be caught like a rabbit. I mean, Starmer looks like a rabbit in headlights at the best of times, but it's like every day now. And I go back to the analogy of Sideshow Bob stepping on the rakes. It's every day. Step on a rake, step on a rake, step on a rake. Maybe stop stepping on rakes, Kia. I don't know. Maybe that would be a good idea. And Morgan McSweeney, let's just talk about Morgan McSweeney for a second, because according to Sam Coates of Sky News, he said this morning that Starmer's chief of staff was a close ally of Mandelson, and he pushed hard to defend him yesterday, and he reportedly lobbied for Mandelson to stay despite the emails that have come to light. And okay, let's just say this: McSweeney has to go. He has to absolutely go. Maybe that should be my t-shirt for when I go to the Labour Party conference. McSweeney must go. He has shown disastrously poor political judgment, and Starmer needs to stop listening to him. He has he was given credit for purging the hard left from Labour and centralising power with the centralists, I guess. But they've ended up with this really small clique of people who I'm just assuming, when I was younger, I thought The Thick of It was a comedy show, but it turns out it was actually a documentary sent from the future. If they've blown up their own credibility here, and the credibility not just of the advisors, but of the entire party. Some might say they've blown up the credibility of our country as well. This is a international diplomatic position. If Starmer wants to salvage any kind of authority out of this whole thing, McSweeney's got to go. He's got to go. What do you think? Is anyone in the chat going to defend McSweeney? Because, I mean, keeping him on, just to me, would just be proof that cronyism trumps competence in this particular government. And let's look at Labour as a whole, right? As a bunch of arseholes, as a whole. Mandelson is the 9th senior figure to leave Starmer's top team in the last 12 months, following Angela Rayner's resignation just 6 days ago. Also gone is Sue Gray, Andrew Gwynn, Louise Haig even, Rushanara Ali, Tulip Sadiq, Annalise Dodds and Vicky Foxcroft. This level of churn, it's pretty Tory, isn't it? Does it sound like, chaos, infighting, poor judgment at the very top of government? And isn't it mad? Like, Starmer's first instinct is, people say he's cautious, but I think he suffers from a lack of caution, especially when a situation comes up, and I think that it is incautious for him to start talking about it in the way that he'll defend the indefensible and then cave once the scandal explodes. And I know it's more nuanced than that. I know that we as people who are quite interested in politics know there's more to it, right? But if you're an average person on the street who just votes once every 5 years and doesn't really pay that much attention to politics, this is what they think of Starmer now. He will defend and defend and defend, and then he'll cave once the scandal gets too much. I know another politician who was very similar to that, Boris Johnson. And I know that Starmer and his team go out of their way to try and stop any comparisons with Johnson or Farage even. But it's there. It might be the difference between Johnson's keeping someone on for 2 weeks and then sacking them, or compared with Starmer might be just 2 days and then sack them. But we're talking about judgement, and we're talking about something that I don't think can be taught. We're talking about political instincts, you know? And whenever a party like Labour, a left-wing, ostensibly left-wing party, get into power, they do have to be purer than pure. They do. They can't fuck up. They can't be seen to be taking freebies, and they can't be hanging out with sleazy motherfuckers like Peter Mandelson. You know, you just can't. It's like, okay, you want to be a priest, that's cool. You've got to stop going down the fucking casino and shagging prostitutes. I mean, you know, that's just the rules. I mean, a lot of people don't, but you're supposed to. That's the bit where you're supposed to, you know, leave the drugs behind, fella. Okay, father? Put the crack pipe down, lad. You're in the priesthood now. You know, you're a professional footballer. Maybe you can't eat McDonald's every day. I don't know. I just think that when you have a particular job, there's certain things that you can't do that you would quite like to do, or, you know, all things considered. Maybe Labour like hanging out with sleazy motherfuckers. Maybe that's what gets Starmer off. I don't know. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to say that if you are a political party that has come into power after people have been sick of 14 years of Tory sleaze, don't be sleazy. Really simple. Like, am I talking a different language here? Is this really complicated and nuanced? And because it seems really simple. It seems really straightforward. Don't hang around with dicks. Don't, because they'll strike you down to their level. You dance with the devil don't change. The devil changes you. Welcome to Lone Star, the Chaos Druid. Welcome. New member of the channel. That's really cool. If anyone else wants to join the channel, you can press the join button and become a member, which is really cool. And Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. As a trans woman and nostalgic for the Blair era, yeah, I can absolutely see. I mean, I think some of my trans friends are getting nostalgic for the days of Cameron. You know, I mean, how mad is that? Because at least they, under the coalition, brought in marriage equality. Even Theresa May was bringing in the changes to the Gender Recognition Act that was supposed to go through to make it easier for people to transition. And then that's all gone by the by now because of Murdoch and Rothermere and Barclay Brothers and Trump and all these people who just decided, and J.K. Rowling, who decided that, oh God, we're going to have to pick on the minority for some reason. Anyway, Haya says it shows a lack of imagination to imagine people without mental imagery have no imagination. No, it's not that they have no imagination. It's that they can't visualize stuff. I find that really interesting. You know, some people, like, they smell colours or something, like, and that's synesthesia, is it? Is that it? Whether you hear colours? And that's kind of like a strange phenomenon. I'm colourblind. I'm really shit with colours. As anyone who's seen any of my thumbnails over the years can probably attest. Yeah, that looks alright, and then someone else looks at it and goes, oh my God, where did you pick that colour? But yeah, that particular thing, and like I say, I don't think it would be a major problem if he was getting advised by people who had a strong vision of where they want Britain to be. And do you know what? I think this goes back to something that I've thought about for quite a long time in British politics, over my lifetime at least. Short-termism. Just thinking, oh, where are we going to be by the next election, instead of thinking where are we going to be in 1,000 years' time. No one thinks about that. There used to be 3 train lines. Excuse me, I'm going to go on a tangent for a moment. There used to be 3 train lines, main train lines, going from the north to the south. There was the East Coast Main Line, which goes down from Edinburgh in Scotland to London. And then you've got the West Coast Main Line, which usually starts in Glasgow, goes all the way down via between Liverpool and Manchester, goes down between the two, and then down through Birmingham into London. And then there was the Central Main Line, which, as its name suggests, went down the middle. This started in Manchester, it went through to Sheffield, through the Woodhead tunnels, and then took a sharp left at Albuquerque, and headed down to London, right? The Central Main Line, which should have been kept, like the fact we got rid of it was just the madness of the 1960s. But that was built in, I think, the 1890s. I think it was that long ago. It was the 1890s it was built. And it was built for the future. It was built as a graded railway. There were no level crossings. It was all bridges and tunnels, viaducts, embankments, all the way to London. And this allowed high-speed trains. It meant that the trains didn't have to stop so often. It meant that cars didn't have to stop. This is when they were drawing this up, cars didn't exist. Oh my God. Okay, it meant horses and carts didn't have to stop to cross the railway line. There's one for you. So this is like people looking back then at the future. The rails were built quite straighter than other railways, because they knew that if they were going to get these steam trains, and there's still steam trains back then, or in the future they would have electric trains that could be going at over 100 miles an hour. I think the Mallard, there was a train called the Mallard which went at over 100 miles an hour, steam train. And they thought, well, we have to make it pretty straight, don't we, if we're going to have these trains going at this speed so they don't fall off when they go around the corner. But the most remarkable bit of the foresight of the people who designed this bloody railway line, which has been ripped up because Tories, was that they were originally planning to link it up with the Channel Tunnel, which wouldn't be built for another 100 years. That's vision. That's looking into the future. Where are we going to be in 100 years? Where are we going to be in 1,000 years? One of the best arguments for not drilling the oil. So let's just pretend for a moment that the knobheads are right, which is never true. But let's just pretend for a moment. And that actually digging up oil and burning fossil fuels, burning this carbon that's been safely locked away for millions of years, burning this carbon is actually a good thing somehow, right? We're still going to run out of oil, and in 1,000 years' time we will still need oil. It's a really useful commodity, and we burn it. We burn so much of it. So much of it. It's ridiculous. C Dizzy Dizzle, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Charlie Kirk being shot was an awful thing to see. Yeah, thanks for the super chat. I've not seen it. Fortunately for me, I was in the cinema watching a Iranian film called It Was an Accident, which was a good film actually. But luckily, I wasn't doom scrolling. I wasn't on the internet. I wasn't on TikTok. I certainly wasn't on Twitter. I never go on Twitter these days. And I wasn't scrolling through something that would have shown me the video. I don't respond very well to stuff like that. Again, visual memory. Kind of maybe in this respect, I might be a little bit jealous of Keir Starmer. I have images burnt into my brain, and I can't get rid of them, and I will have them probably for the rest of my life. There was a guy in the middle of the road when I was in Ethiopia in 2012, middle of the night. He'd clearly been hit by a car, and we had to call the emergency services, and the image of this man, like his injuries, I can't get it out of my head. There was a video that went round at the dawn of the internet, and it was an American politician who shot himself on stage, and some dickhead, my brother, showed me this fucking video, and went, oh, look at this. And that was maybe 27 years ago, and I still can't get that image out of my head. I can't. It's still there, and it will be. Like I say, there's certain things that I've seen in real life and that I've seen on the internet that just stay with me. So I can't go near that stuff. I find it really problematic for my mental health. And so what I'll say about that is, please don't look up this stuff. And if you do, please, for the love of God, do not share it. And that goes for any violence like that, okay? Animals being tortured, people being attacked. Like, don't share that stuff. I don't know what it is with the impulse of certain people. And look, if you're watching this and this is something that you do, I'm not having a go at you here. I'm just trying to say, look, please stop it, because you don't know the mental state of the people, of a person who sees that. And if they are feeling particularly vulnerable at that moment in that place, they might go and do something, and you'll never know. But you caused that. So just please do not do that. Do not share these videos at all. And I'm purposely not talking about what happened yesterday on this show, because I don't want to open this channel up to a bunch of fucking lunatic trolls in the comments and in the chat. I want this to remain a safe space for people from all over the neurodiverse spectrum, and for my gay friends, my trans friends, as a place where we don't get abused for being who we are. So yeah, that's just the way I feel. Anyway, we might discuss what happened yesterday tomorrow in the Friday night social. I'm sure it'll come up, so we'll talk about it then. Yeah, if anyone knows the Bible, is it Matthew 26:52? If I got this right, I'm going to give myself a fiver. Matthew 26:52. Anyway, do you know who knows more about the Bible than people who purport to know lots about, going for the whole Christianity thing? It's atheists like myself. I know that passage. Anyway, so let's move on. So I want to talk about Labour. Sort of, this whole thing just screams of incompetence. They should have, with Mandelson, they should have seen the risk. They should have neutralised it before the appointment. Or at the very least, cut Mandelson loose months ago, when all this stuff was coming out about Epstein over the summer. They knew this was coming. Instead, Starmer backed him at PM Hughes and then sacked him the next morning, And now Starmer looks like a man with no judgement. He looks like he's easily manipulated by party grandees like Mandelson and McSweeney, a man who caves under pressure, rather than leading from the front, a man who's constantly chasing the error. When you're firing a gun, a semi-automatic gun, it tends to kick up, which is why, if anyone's ever shot an AK-47, you'll know if you put it on semi-automatic mode, it's almost impossible to hit a target. Like, you couldn't hit a barn door with it. It is the most, in movies where you see like the goodie running through and everyone's shooting at them and you keep missing, it's because they've got AK-47s. There's just, and it's called chasing the error, because you're constantly trying to pull the gun back down and get it to shoot straight. Well, they all shoot straight, but in the right direction, and that's what I feel like Starmer's doing. He's constantly chasing the error. He's constantly trying to accommodate for the recoil and not actually, taking his time to map out all the various possibilities. And I'm not saying like I'm some kind of master strategist. I'm not. But in my, I'm not trying to big myself up. But when I was traveling around the world to every country without flying, I had to have loads of contingency plans in place because things just went wrong. Borders closed. I couldn't get some countries said, oh, you can't get a visa here, you got to go elsewhere. Some countries were were safe and then went less safe. Some countries were less safe and went safe. There was a lot of sitting down and just having to think and having to go through all the permutations. Okay, if I go to this particular location, then I should be able to get a ship from there. But if I can't get a ship from there, I'll try this place, and I'll try this place, and I'll try this place. And the example I'll give everyone is I went to a place called sorry, I'm gonna have to look it up. Diego Suarez. Diego Suarez. There you go. The reason why I'm looking it up is it's not called Diego Suarez anymore. It's called Ansa Anana. Ansa Anana. It's the very northern tip of Madagascar, and I tried to get a ship on a sailing boat from there to the Seychelles Islands when I was traveling back in. God, this would have been November 2009. I didn't get anywhere. Everyone was like, no one's going to, because of the Somali piracy situation. I then tried to find a boat from Mombasa that was going there, Mombasa in Kenya. I couldn't find anything that was going, so I didn't actually go to Mombasa in the end. I just went straight through Nairobi because there was no point. Then I tried getting there from Salalah in Oman. Again, no cargo ships would take me. I spent 2 weeks there talking to people on ships and trying to get someone who would take me over to the Seychelles, but no one was playing ball because of the Somali pirate situation. I then spent a couple of weeks in Kerala in India for Kochi or Cochin. Again, trying to get to the Seychelles or the Maldives in that case. Both. And in the end, it wouldn't be for another couple of years before I did actually manage to get on a ship, and I ended up taking it from India across to the Maldives and then to the Seychelles. And that was after spending, I think, 4 months of the journey in Sri Lanka, trying to find a boat from Sri Lanka. And a lot of the things that happened on my journey, I sort of look back now and go, oh, that was lucky, wasn't it? That was lucky. But then actually, if I take a step back and go, well, I did the best I could given the information that I had and given the information and the situation, and I managed to do it. I managed to find a way through. I kept plugging away and finding a way through, but there was a lot of visualization that went into that process of like me on a sailboat, or me on a fishing boat, or me on a cargo ship, or me on a cruise ship. I needed to visualize it. And this isn't the secret bullshit about, you think about it and then you make it happen. This is about sussing out eradicate the impossible, and then anything that's left will be your answer. So I had to suss out the possible ways of getting to this place that I needed to get to. That's just one example. And I feel that ability seems to be sadly lacking in our government. I do. I'm not sorry. I think that the optics at the moment, with Mandelson leaving, obviously the tabloids are going to have a field day with this. I think the optics are catastrophic for Labour, And now Mandelson's name is forever chained to Epstein, but by extension to Starmer. Starmer's going to be seen now by some people as, he appointed that pedo's mate, didn't he? He appointed that fellow who was busy with that pedo. And yeah, I mean, this was supposed to be the clean, grown-up, technocratic government that we've been hoping for after 14 years of Tory mismanagement and sleaze. But instead, it seems like another screaming monkey clown car going off a cliff. Just a different colour. And then Mandelson was obviously supposed to be the bridge between Starmer and Donald Trump during this sort of volatile period in US-UK relations, clearly. But with him gone, and in disgrace, that Britain now looks unprepared and unstable on the global stage. Like, who's going to replace him? And, you know, this is going to linger like in Washington like a bad smell. It just will. And the timing couldn't be worse. Trump is erratic and vindictive, as we know, and his friend has just died. So it's and his main line of communication, our main line of communication with Trump has been lost. And also, this comes a few days after they got rid of David Lammy from the Foreign Department, who had been fostering relations with J.D. Vance for years. And that's all been thrown away now. You know, and this is, finally, I just want to say, this entire disaster was optional, you know. And it's happened because Starmer is over-reliant on a tight clique of Blairite relics, and McSweeney he chose, you know, he made, or he you know, his advice to Starmer clearly was to choose loyalty over political survival. And it's amazing how bad at optics Labour are, considering they seem a bit obsessed with optics. Like, how will this look? How will this look? You know, they forget about the ethics, but they seem to lose both. And I can't stress, I don't even have the words, and I'm quite wordy. I don't have the words to express how disappointed I am in Labour. I just being shitter than I ever possibly thought they would be. I never thought they'd be great. I supported tactical voting in the last election. The most important thing for me was to get the Tories out. But I did expect Labour to be a bit better than this. A lot better. I know when Labour got into power in the past, they've gone more central. They always do. This is something that is a through line through the whole history of Labour. In opposition, they can be quite radical. Once they are in power, they are not. This is not... I was bracing myself for that. I knew that was coming. But here we are. Here we are. The left was right about new Labour period. It says Socialists. Still better than the Tories, says Ian McCall. Yeah, they are. But come on, that's not saying much, is it? And honestly, there's a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't forgive them for necessarily, but I'd understand why they're doing it and begrudgingly going, yeah, okay. And one of those things is Europe. You know, I want to rejoin Europe tomorrow. Our friends, brothers, sisters, colleagues, cousins in Europe, I would like to rejoin that. I'd like to have my freedom of movement returned to me. Thank you very much, because Nigel Farage has still got his. And yet, Labour are not going to even touch it. You know, they're not going to touch going back to the EU. And I understand why. It pisses me off, but I understand why. The stuff that they're doing at the moment, I don't even understand why they're doing it. You know, I have no clue what they are thinking or why they're doing it this way. Graham Price is the better the Tories, but that's a low bar. It is indeed. The Daily Mail's headline is Calamity Kia. Well, let's have a look at the headlines. We'll go over to the papers now. We've got the front page here. The Guardian calls for Mandelson to quit over best pal Epstein revelations. We've also got Starmer refused to sack Mandelson as US envoy, which he's just actually done. We've got royal drama because one of the lads from the house up top of the road, you know, the people who live above the shop, he's gone to see his dad. He's living in America. He's living in America now, the lad, and he came to see his dad. Exciting stuff. The Daily Mail, now Mandelson must be fired. A new crisis for spineless Starmer. Like, this is not generating great news, is it? News headlines. When Harry met Charlie, but Will's in Cardiff. Poland warns of war threat after Russian drones breach airspace. Yeah, there's a meeting of NATO today to discuss. And then when Harry finally met his father again, picture of Prince Harry there in a car. Mandelson on brink over leaked emails with Epstein. Fight on, Mandelson told jailed Epstein. Not looking good, not looking good. UK may send jets to Poland after Russia's strike. Yep. And fresh blow to Labour growth drive as Merck pulls plug on £1 billion research site. So let's have a look at this in the Financial Times here. This is clearly not good. And also there's a story there about Larry Ellison, who briefly became the world's richest man yesterday, and then it reverted back to that dickhead. What's his name? Fucking, dickhead boy. Anyway, fresh blow to Labour growth as drive as Merck pulls plug on £1 billion research site. So US group hits out at ministers. UK not competitive, drug price row plays role, and 125 staff laid off. US drug maker Merck has scrapped a £1 billion London research centre and will lay off more than 100 scientific staff as the industry accuses ministers of making the UK uncompetitive and paying too little for medicines. So obviously this is something that is being pushed by Trump to say that they had to pay so much for medicines and it's all because all these countries are paying too little. No, mate. You could get away, your country could get away with paying less for medicines. You just choose not to. And then there's this story here, Mandelson in survival battle as email reveals a love for disgraced Epstein. So obviously he's gone now. Oh, there wasn't a super chat, but there might have been. The little animation just came up there of his own accord. Space Karen, yeah. Bella says Starmer seems honestly excellent at optics. He hits the exact opposite of good optics so often it defies chance. He chooses to flunk the optics. Yeah. And BUFC Mike says, no idea why it's suddenly a headline. Many of us pointed out the Epstein link when he was first appointed. I even said at the time, it just shows how poor Starmer's judgment is. Yeah, I can't argue. His judgment has been absolutely appalling. And I don't think that Starmer's going to still be the Prime Minister when the next election comes along. Just saying. I don't think he will be. Anyway, so, Graham Price says, I was looking at a website which details which the UK media's left or right-wing bias. I was surprised to find the FT was considered the most impartial and honest. No, it is. And Dog 4x4, it's supposed to look for accounts. I was talking to one of you pagan there, having a little private conversation. Kirsty says, I've been organising our department at Christmas dinner and I have to email venues asking about their EHRC compliance policy. So I selected one that said they weren't actually enforcing it. I mean, good that you found somewhere, and good that there's somewhere that's not being a bunch of fucking bigots. But I'm sad that you had to do that, to find somewhere and had to find somewhere that, this is the world we're living in right now, isn't it? It's a bit grim. It's a bit grim that you're having to do that. So yeah, listen, I want to just mention something that I keep forgetting to talk about because there's a million different things going on. I'm actually holding an event. Me and Phil Morehouse from A Different Bias are going to be doing an event on Labour Comms in Liverpool on the 29th, Monday the 29th of September. We'd like to get a few of you along if you can. It's free for tickets. All you need to do is follow the link that I'm about to put into the chat here. Let's have a look. Oh no, that's a YouTube link. Why? That's not the link. That's not the link you want. So yeah, I'm going to just copy that and then put this on here. So there you go. If you'd like to join us, please get yourself a ticket, and if you want to make a friendly donation, you can. You don't have to. But we're going to be talking about Labour's terrible comms, like ridiculously bad comms. And me and Phil are going to be talking about how we would go about fixing them and what we would do to change things. I think getting rid of Mug and Sweeney is going to probably be number one, and at least my agenda for fixing Labour's comms. And I know there's going to be people watching this going, why do we want to fix Labour's comms? Fuck them. They're a bunch of dickheads. And I get that. I completely get that. But I am genuinely concerned for all of us if we get a majority in this country. And I don't want kids who were born today to grow up in a refuck Britain. I really don't, because it'll be as horrible as Trump's America. They're following his playbook. And part of Labour fixing their comms is Labour fixing its fucking attitude, because its attitude at the moment fucking stinks. I think that Labour are coming across as very high-handed. I think they're coming across with a lack of empathy. I mean, it would be ironic if someone who said that empathy was the worst thing ever was then the subject of an outpouring of empathy. And when people weren't empathetic about that person who said that empathy was the worst thing in the world, people who said, well, he didn't want us to be empathetic, so why should I be? That we get it in the neck. Anyway, Bella says we need to fix Labour's comms because there are too many people in this country who do not believe they have a choice but to vote Labour on the lesser of two evils basis. And like I say, the way I see it, fixing the comms is all part and parcel of Labour fixing not just their messaging, but the messages. That's a bad way of putting it, I think. Labour are getting bad advice, clearly. I don't think that Starmer's up to this. As time goes by, like I said, I'm getting more and more agitated by his unwillingness to envision a future for Britain that I think we deserve, and we all deserve, no matter who we are, where we come from, how we identify. Like, none of this stuff matters to anyone but ourselves. This is our lives. We're only here once. We're here for a good time, not a long time. And I think it's really grim that Labour have gone down this route. So fixing their comms is one step on the way to them fixing Labour and making them a party that I would be proud to vote for in a few years' time. And I don't want to be voting for them on the grounds that they're the lesser of two evils. And this is why I just want to say, Zach Polanski, I wish him the best of luck, because my hope is that if he can get the populist left to sort of move over to his group, it's not necessarily join the Greens, but I mean, not that I have a problem with that, but bring more people over to sort of his way of thinking about how we go about talking about immigrants, talking about the environment, talking about our relationship with Europe, things like this. I think he might be instrumental in bringing Labour back to where I think their natural home should be, despite my disagreements with Phil over this matter. But I think Labour should not be socially conservative. I look back over the history of Labour in government, and when they actually had a fair whack of a go of in government. And don't forget, in the last 100 years, they've only been in charge for 33 of them. The rest of the time, it's been the Tories. The Tories are very good at winning elections, and Labour are not. So my lifetime so far, I'm 46, and only 14 of my years on this planet in Britain have been under a Labour government. 14 years out of 46. Yeah. So I don't want to be ashamed to support Labour in the next election. I want them to be a force for good, and I think that starts with fixing their comms, getting rid of their advisors, and when the time comes, having a fresh start and saying to Sakia, I'm afraid. I think he's had his chance and he's blown it. Simple as that. I am prepared to give people chances, but no, not that much. Not that many. If Starmer goes, at least McSweeney, Streeting, and Phillipson need to go with him, or the divisions will continue. Says Bella. Yeah. Well, I saw today that Bridget Phillipson is like going to be the front runner for the deputy leader, not the deputy prime minister, but the deputy leader of Labour, of the Labour Party. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, because she's a turfy wench, isn't she? She's a bit turfy. One I think is that Zach Polanski still needs to prove himself electorally successful first for me. I'm not jumping on any bandwagons and thus will remain politically homeless till things change. Yeah, what I'm thinking, I didn't mean that everyone's going to join the Greens. Although if you want to join the Greens or you are Green, I've got no beef with you. I'm like I mentioned, I've met Zach and done an interview with him back in the day. I knew him before he was the leader of the Greens. He's still a mate of mine on Facebook, so if you want to get a message to him, I do have a way. I've probably still got his number, actually. I haven't texted him for a very long time. But yeah, I'm hopeful that his brand of left-wing populism will rub off onto Labour. And one thing in particular I want to see is a positive message about refugees, which, to be fair, the Greens have done this in the past, but not as forcefully. I think that the SNP did it so much better in the last election, where you had Stephen Flynn, who I keep saying I've got a lot of time for. I think he's a very good speaker. He's very direct. He's very forceful in what he says. He's not woolly. He's not boring. I don't agree with him on everything, but when he's talking about refugees, when he's talking about migrants and saying they are a good thing for our country, we need them, that message isn't getting out enough. And too many people in the UK fed lies and hatred from the media for many, many years just have this in their head of migrants bad. Alistair, thank you very much. Graham, can you have a wee show with Zach? What, like water sports? Oh, small show. Sorry, I thought you meant something else there, mate. Thank you very much for the super chat. I was going to get in touch with him to see if I could go on his, because he's doing a podcast, and he's inviting people that he agrees with and people he disagrees with to come on his podcast with him. So I might give him a shout and say, hey, you came on my pubcast many moons ago, Zach. How about I go on your podcast? And what I want to talk about, probably, if I'm going to be talking to Zach, might be a bit unfair, but I don't care, is the fact that the leaders of Labour, the Tories, the Greens, under Zach, the Lib Dems and Refuck all went to private school. 100% of the major political parties, English political parties, went to private school. The leaders of these parties went to private school. 100%. There's not even an odd one out. And to me, that is something I would really like to discuss with someone who went to private school and say, why is it that so many people leave these posh borstals, these see you next Tuesday farms, and they come out with this attitude of I alone can fix it. Like, what do they? Is that what they're taught? Because they have to teach the national curriculum, so I guess that's what they are taught. I alone can fix it. The idea that they are the person to do that job, and no one else should even be given consideration, especially if they, like me and most people watching this, attended a state school. Yeah. Anyway, But yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Zach on nearly everything to do with the environment and things to do with reforming the voting system, our relationship with Europe and all that kind of stuff. So I think this is sort of my personal beef. And I know that there's going to be people out there going, Graham, you've got a chip on your shoulder. And sometimes, I do. I wake up next to my beautiful girlfriend with a, who's got a PhD, incredibly successful. And I look at the wall, I look at the Guinness World Record certificates on the wall. I think about all my travels and all the things I've done. And then I get on a plane and I fly to Panama and go to my private island. And I just go, this chip on my shoulder. Oh, man. It's killing me. I should go to a chiropractor about that. Anyway, Polanski needs to drop the see you first tedium. SM needs to be the priority, says Nick. Haya says, I think I'm right in saying that Zach went on a scholarship and left after a year because he didn't like it. Yeah, I think that's true. As well, with Starmer, his school became a private school while he was there, so he never paid fees to go. These are kind of like honorary members of the private school mafia, but the fact remains. Bella says, one has a tree, another has a flower. Neither gives a damn about the environment. That's very true. And Chris C says, quite rightly, private schools need to be banned in the UK. Education should be fair, an equal playing field for every child. Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. So, I'm going to head off now because I've been yakking for just over an hour. So, I hope you enjoyed your little dose of Canada here. There's a Canadian tree behind me. I don't think it's a maple. Is it a maple? No, I don't think it's a maple tree. We've got the Hyatt over there. Can you see this? Will that actually... Oh, there you go, yeah. See? Wow, look at that. Tall buildings. There's the Hyatt over there. There's some... Look at this. Look how tall the buildings are here in Toronto. So I'm just moving my laptop around. That's why it's so wobbly. So yeah, thank you for joining me here in Toronto this morning for me, this afternoon for you. I'm going to head out now. Got another movie to watch today. Just to tell you, the movie I saw yesterday, I'll just talk about this for a moment before I go. It was called It Was an Accident. It's an Iranian film by an Iranian director who came and spoke before the film started. It was really good, and he doesn't speak English, so he had a translator, so he was talking about how grateful he was for everyone to come and see the film. It actually won the Palme d'Or at this year's Cannes Film Festival, and it was good. It was really good. It concerned it reminds me of another film, but I can't quite put my finger on what film it was. But essentially, a guy, he's working in a garage and he's upstairs and he hears the sound of someone who's with a fake leg, who's got like this squeak to his fake leg, and it triggers something in him. You don't know what at the beginning of the movie, and he ends up kidnapping this guy, taking him out to the desert, making a hole, and he's about to bury this guy alive in the desert because he thinks that he's this prison officer who held this guy for 5 years and tortured him every day for 5 years, but he never saw his face because he was always blindfolded, but he heard the sound of him walking with this artificial leg which squeaks. And then the movie unfolds because the guy has doubt over whether it is actually him or not, whether it is the guy, and he enlists other people who were also tortured and worse by this officer who none of them saw. And it's kind of like, I mean, there's some very funny parts in it. It's like a real black comedy drama, but it was really, really good. It's called It Was Just an Accident. If you can find it on whatever, I really recommend that. And then in the evening, I went to Second City. Now, Second City is here in Toronto. It is a comedy club that's been around since 1973. And it is where the likes of Rick Moranis and Catherine O'Hara and John Candy, obviously, and Dan Aykroyd, Evi Levy, is it? What was his name? The guy from American Pie, him. A lot of famous Canadian comedians got their first stint, on the stage. And there was SCTV in the 1970s, which John Candy was in. And what I went to see last night was Chris Candy, who's John Candy's son, telling stories about his dad. And his dad died when Chris was 8, so it was just like a few little anecdotes about. And then there was a troupe of what's it called? Not impromptu. What's the word for it? Where you like, whose line is it anyway? Where you just make it up as you go along. What's that word where you make it up as you go along? Someone's going to tell me in the chat in a moment. But it was basically that, and they would sort of do sketches based on what the stories that Chris Candy had told, and Chris Candy also joined in these sketches as well. So yeah, it was improv. Thank you, improv. Yeah, not ad-lib, wing it, improv, not improv. So like, it was improv comedy, and it was really good. And I had a chat with Chris Candy after the show. I got a photo with him, but someone else took the photo. Never give your fucking camera to someone else. Just don't do it. Oh my God. Like, this is one chance to get your picture with someone famous, and you're about to take a selfie, and someone always comes over and goes, oh, I'll take the photo for you. And you get it back. It's like a picture of the fucking ceiling, and you're like, thank you. Thank you for helping. But yeah, I was talking to Chris Candy about the documentary called I Like Me, which is coming on Amazon Prime in a month's time or so, which is about John Candy's life. And I got to ask about what was in the trunk, in Planes, Trains and Automobiles, where John Candy's dragging this big trunk around. What's in it? And in the way they originally filmed it, and in the original script, it was all his wife's possessions, because his wife had died. But they thought it didn't go down very well with the test audiences, so I don't think that when they opened it was just full of junk. It wasn't full of specific thing. But yeah, that was my question for him. And he said it became a bit like the suitcase out of Pulp Fiction, It doesn't matter what's in the trunk. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so that was really good. Really good, nice experience. Honestly, I've had the best time here. I'm leaving on Saturday night, heading to Costa Rica. But I can't recommend this place enough. I mean, I know I'm a bit sort of biased probably, because I've just only had good experiences here so far, touch wood. But yeah, it's just been a really nice vibe. It's been a really nice vibe, and people are really friendly, and everyone's very chatty, which I like. And yeah, I've seen a lot of good movies and done a bunch of cool things. I might go to a baseball game later. I want to go to a baseball game. I'm just up the road from the Blue Jays Stadium here in Toronto, so they're playing today. So I might give it a go. Graham has a really big hat, if you know what I mean. Hey, yeah, shower curtain rings. Those aren't pillows. Says Trip. Yeah, indeed. So anyway, right. So I'm going to head off now. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to everyone who's chipped in with the super chat and everything. Please, before you go, give us a like and consider joining the channel. Check out the when you leave here, please check out the Eventbrite link there, and send it to anyone in Liverpool or Manchester or Wigan or St Helens who might want to, or Birkenhead, who might want to come over for this talk. It's going to be the agenda in real life with me and Phil at the Labour Party conference. So please join us for that. It's a fringe event. You don't need a ticket for the conference. We're going to be a little bit away from it, and if there's any Real Ale fans out there who aren't even that arsed about me or Phil talking politics, come along for the Real Ale, because it's going to be at the Ship and Mitre on Dale Street, and they do the best Real Ale. They always have a really fantastic selection. So if that If that butters your parsnips, then please get your arse down. Ship and Mitre, 7 o'clock, 29th of September, Monday, the 29th of September, to come and see me and Phil there. So that's it. Until next time, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.